Bună ziua! Transmitem direct de la Budapesta, ediția a 13 a Saloanelor literare ale revistei Familia din Oradea, ediție dedicată Congresului Internațional al Poeților, ce are loc în capitala Ungariei între 21 și 25 septembrie. În cele ce urmează vom transmite lecturi de autor ale unora dintre participanții la congres și scurte interviuri cu aceștia. Good afternoon. We are broadcasting live from Budapest, the 13th edition of the literary salons of the Familia literary magazine in Oradea, Romania. And we are going to have some author readings and some short interviews with a couple of the participants in the International Congress of Poets that is taking place in the Hungarian capital city between September 21st and 25th. Two of our guests will be two very respected Czech poets, Klára Hurková and Jakub Fischer. Both of them are members of the Czech Pen Club. Both of them are guests of the International Congress of the Poets here in Budapest. And I would like to thank them very much for accepting to be the guests of the literary salons of the Familia magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome here Klára and Jakub. Klára, Jakube, vítejte. Klára, Jakub, welcome here. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you first of all whether you are whether you participate for the first time at the International Congress of Poets.
Yes, I do. It's my first time here.
And how do you feel? How did you like this edition?
It's great. Yeah, I'm really very pleased to be here, and it's great to meet all the people from all over the world. You can say it, because there are not only poets from Europe, but also from South America and from Asia, from which countries? Yeah, many different countries. So that's great.
What about you, Jakub? Co vy, Jakube? Jak se vám to líbí? Tady poprvé?
Ano, já jsem poprvé na tomhle kongresu, poprvé i v Budapešti. Líbí se mi tady atmosféra a líbí se mi, že poznávám spoustu nových lidí, umělecky založených a literárně založených.
Jakub is also for the first time here. Actually, he is also for the first time in Budapest, and he likes very much the atmosphere of this congress, and especially the fact that he met a lot of people artistically and literarily orientated and with very much interest for poetry. I'd like also to ask you whether you, as members of the Czech Pen Club, feel that there was something about the pen ideals or of the pen principles here at this congress. Did you feel some influence of the pen principles within this congress?
Yes, I think the general spirit is according to the principles of the Pen Club, the idea of brotherhood and sisterhood of poets is great, and the international concept and the idea that we as poets can influence humanity in the way of being and living better. So I think these are all, and the tolerance and the openness, especially nowadays at the times of political changes and political difficult situations, corona and so on. So I think it's very present, the spirit of pen clubs.
Co si o tom myslíte vy, Jakube? Cítil jste tady, že jsou přítomné, anebo že se uplatňují nějak zásady pen klubu?
Přiznám se, že nedokážu úplně odpovědět, nebo nedokážu to říct jako Klára, že to takhle podobně cítím, že jsou ty zásady a ideje pen klubu tady zastoupeny. Nicméně možná můžu říct, že je důležitá asi atmosféra tady setkávání a možná to, co říkala Klára, že je v současné kritické době, pandemické době, je úžasný, že se takovýhle festival organizuje a že se na něm potká spousta lidí z celého světa.
By difference to Clara, Jakub couldn't say whether he recognized or not the application of the PEN principles here on this Congress, but he confirmed, just like Clara, that the atmosphere here was really great and that it is an excellent fact that this kind of festivals could be organized under these critical conditions, critical from political but also from pandemical point of view, because those are two of the most important challenges of our time. One other question I would like to ask you is, actually, both of you are poets, but in the same time, each of you has a very has a principal, a main profession. So you are not doing this as your main occupation. As far as I know, and please so correct me if I'm not wrong, you are a teacher and you are a lawyer. Clara is a teacher and Jakub is a lawyer. Do you have time, or how much time do you have to dedicate to poetry?
Not enough. Always not enough, yeah. This is one thing I suffer under all my life. Yes, although I don't work full-time, I have a part-time job. I teach English and art at a middle school in Germany. So seen from outside, people maybe think I have enough time, but I don't. I would love to have more time for writing. I also paint, so also for painting, for art. It's always this question of balance, which I not always find. Yeah, I would prefer to have more time for art.
Co ve vašem případě, Jakube? Máte dost času na poezii? Vaše hlavní profese nechá vám dost času a na to, abyste psal?
Nenechává samozřejmě. Myslím si, že nejde jenom o čas, ale že jde taky o koncentraci nebo způsob přemýšlení, když člověk chce psát a najednou mu zazvoní telefon a otravuje ho klient, tak je to složitý. Ale já si nestěžuju vzhledem k tomu, že jsem vlastně jak jako advokát, tak jako básník na volné noze, takže vlastně mám tím pádem hodně volného času a je to v tom případě dobrý povolání.
Of course, tells Jakub, there is never enough time for poetry, especially when one wants to write something at once. The phone calls and the phone rings, and some client is boring you with his or her pretensions and expectations, but in the same time, the positive aspect Jakub stresses about is that actually, as a lawyer and also as a poet, he's his own manager. He doesn't have a work relation with a company. He is his own boss. Therefore, he has actually as much free time as he wants to have. Clara and Jakub, I would like to kindly ask you to present yourselves as poets. Your books, your motives, or what do you think it's important for you as authors in order to address viewers interested in poetry, in your works, which actually don't know too much about your creation?
Shall I start?
Well, if we started with ladies first, let's continue with ladies first.
Okay. So I have been writing since I was a child, so I think I'm a poet. I think nothing can stop me. Even my job can't stop me. Nothing. poems are coming and coming and coming. When I emigrated to Germany, well, first I emigrated to Belgium, in fact, in 1989. I couldn't speak the language. I lived in the German-speaking part of Belgium, and then I moved to Aachen, Germany, and I couldn't really speak German, and that was really a problem for me as a poet, because I was used to writing anytime. Now I didn't have the language suddenly, and I had to learn so much just to survive, so I also didn't have time to write in Czech. And yeah, so I kind of wrote much less for 5 years or something. And then one day I decided to start in the foreign language, in German. And it was a kind of big change. And I started to write in German. And you know yourself, Mircea, that it's quite different to write in a language which is not your mother tongue.
Tell me about it.
You have a different view of the language. I think there are also positive aspects of it, because you are much more reflected as a poet. You are not as spontaneous. You have to think more about the words. So it's a big experience, big experiment, you can say. I now write both in Czech and in German, and sometimes even in English when I am in an English-speaking environment. It's a great experience, as I say. I could talk about it for a long time, but we don't have that time. But I'm really happy that I'm able to write in different languages.
Thank you very much. Yes, you are right. Actually, this is a bit of a common experience for us, because as myself, I write in a different language than my mother tongue. But it is, in the same time, it is a challenge, and something that brings you a certain liberty, a certain independence, because you don't feel, you don't feel like being the prisoner of that language, of its rules, and you can even, sometimes you can bend them, sometimes you can even break them.
Yes, you can use the influence of your own mother tongue on the other language you are writing in. And it's sometimes very interesting.
That's right. Co vy, jakoby, co si myslíte, že je důležité říct o vás jako o básníkovi, jako o autorovi? Co jste dosud publikoval, jaké máte projekty, jaké jsou vaše motivy a tak dále?
No, tak já jsem dosud vydal, myslím, že 7 knížek, mám to spočtený, nebo 8 z nějakých bibliofilí. Co cítím za důležitý říct je, že poslední asi 3 roky pracuju vlastně na velký knížce Láska a jiná zvířata, ze který bych chtěl přečíst vlastně několik ukázek v angličtině. A věřím tomu, že tahle knížka že bude úspěšná, nebo že budu, až se mi podaří ji vydat, dát dohromady peníze, protože myslím si, že peníze jsou velký problém při vydávání poezie. A takže věřím, že to bude povedená úspěšná knížka.
Well, it is a lot to say also in my case, but it is for 3 years that I have been working at a book I want to publish. It is called Love and Other Animals. I hope it will be a successful book, and maybe I hope it won't be too expensive, because money are very important when one wants to publish some book, and especially a poetry book. In short, I hope my future book will be a successful one, and in the same time not too expensive from financial point of view, says Jakub, and he adds that he would like to read tonight just from this book he's preparing this moment. And yes, Jakub was right. Maybe it is the time now, after we had a short talk with our distinguished authors, to kindly ask them to read something from their creation, and if possible, we would like to ask them to read in the original language. In Clara's case, original language could be Czech, German, or English, and in English translation. Of course, if original English, German, if original language is English, there is no need to translate. If original German is different of English, please read also the English translation and also the original. In Jakub's case, the Czech originals and
I
the
don't
English
have Czech
translation.
originals now. I'm not ready for this.
No problem. Then in this case,
Just
only
translation.
English translations, or at least one poem in
One or
Czech. One or two if you have in Czech, because we want also this beloved Czech language of ours to sound during our program. So let us continue according to this principle of ladies first. So, Lady Clara, please be so kind and read us something from your creation.
Maybe I will read something and then Jakob can read and then we can.
I think we'll alternate it like this. It would be the best. One poem or when one poem.
So you want me to read in Czech and
First original and then the English
I
translation.
have one poem in all three languages.
Oh, please
German,
read in all three of them. Oh,
German,
it would be
Czech,
great.
and okay.
It would be great.
Yeah, so this is the poem I submitted for the anthology, which is
Oh, thank you very much for looking. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the anthology of the festival,
Yes.
of the Congress of Poets, Bridge but Poem as a bridge between nations.
Yeah, it's a beautiful anthology with great texts, and I submitted a poem about Atlantis today. So I will read you the English translation first, and then the German original and the Czech version. Okay.
Looking forward to it. Please
Okay.
be our guest.
Atlantis today, flooded with salt water, oil, and black rain, buried under the cargo of sunken ships, under 1,000 things it lies, under the surface of the thoughts, which like spotted fish hide its existence. We ourselves in the diving gear, and with our eyes blindfolded, don't understand the simplest of the words. We don't know that Atlantis isn't a continent, but a state of mind. So now I will give you the Czech version first, my mother tongue. So that's the
One
only
moment. Please tell me, do you translate yourself?
Yes, I do.
Congratulations for doing this, because it's a very hard thing
It
to do.
is, yeah. I find that too, yeah.
I mean, translating someone else, it's of course it's not easy, but translating yourself, it's sometimes a torture, at least for me.
That's true,
Therefore,
you're right, yeah.
therefore, I prefer not to translate myself. I congratulate you for being able to do it.
Well, I translate myself from German, Czech, and the other way around. But the English translation wasn't done by me, but by Natalia Nera, who is also a Czech author, also a member of the Czech Pen Club.
Natalia Nera is very well known to the Romanian audience. She has been published into a very respected Romanian magazine called Literomania. I translated her, and yes, she is a great poetess and also an excellent translator. I hope that maybe in time we will manage to translate also a collection for her, because she just debuted with an excellent collection at the Dauphin nakladatelství, at the Dauphin Publishing House in Prague. Okay, so
Atlantida dnes. Zatopená slanou vodou, naftou a černým deštěm, zasypaná pod nákladem potopených lodí, leží pod tisícem věcí, pod povrchem myšlenek, které jak hejna ryb zastírají její existenci. My v potápěčské výzbroji a s páskou na očích nechápeme nejjednodušší slova. Nevíme, že Atlantida není světadíl, ale stav.
výborně, moc krásné, thank you, very beautiful. And I'm very curious about the German variant.
The German version, I must confess that the German version is actually the original. I wrote it in German, but my German editor wanted me to have bilingual book, so I translated into Czech.
Great.
Okay, so the German is the original. Atlantis heute. Überflutet von Salzwasser, Öl und schwarzen Regenfällen, verschüttet unter der Last versunkener Schiffe, unter 1000 Dingen liegt es, jenseits der Gedankenoberfläche, hinter den Fischschwärmen, die seine Existenz verhüllen. Wir in Taucherausrüstung und mit Augenblende verstehen die einfachsten Worte nicht. Wir wissen nicht, dass Atlantis kein Kontinent, sondern ein Zustand ist.
Wunderbar. Thank you very much. Jakub, please, would you like to read us something? Let's start with those poems you have, as in Czech, also in English. Začínejme, Jakube, těmito básněmi, které máte jak v češtině, tak v angličtině, a pak budeme pokračovat s těmi, které máte jenom v angličtině.
Já nemám teda vlastně tady básně, které mám v češtině i v angličtině. Já mám 2 básně, které jsou v angličtině přeložené z té knížky Láska je na zvířata. A potom můžu přečíst jednu ukázku ze své knížky v češtině.
Výborně. V tomto případě budeme číst nejdřív ty anglické, které máte v antologii. So you will read first the poems in the anthology and then a short fragment in Czech from the book you are preparing now. Thank you very much.
Tak, možná ještě na úvod bych řekl, že to je báseň, která se jmenuje vlastně Úhoř říční.
Actually, this is what Jakub wants to stress, that it is a poem about a hill on a river, which is a very specific motive for his poetry.
From the spring to the river mouth, all creatures swim. They are like rivers. They are born, cry, are quiet. Swift, mild, they twist and turn and straighten and strengthen. Pour into one another, to finally, after all their rocks, waterfalls, dirt, and clearness, arrive at the salt of life and become one being, that for their warmth, which they make but do not shape, reaches the sky and is being cried back to the beginning of their journey. I swim with them. The unthwarting, unstoppable force makes me overcome streams, fords, bridges, meadows, flowers, forests, and marshes. Human waste water, treatment plants, and the radioactive substances, and the power plant to be able to make love in the middle of the sea, and exhausted, sink to the bottom before drawing my last breath. I will feed the hungry, give life to life. My eggs sink with the remains of my torn, rotting body, so that some of them might swim back again. It was me who gave the woman an apple. Let the fig leaves fall to rot and bloom, and seed a tree under which God sits until this day. He feels sorry and is unhappy because he is alone. He cries every day, tears so big. He sustains the inexhaustible springs of the earth. The fascinating cycle of criminality which the Creator didn't throw out, but I did. So two of them got to know freedom, love, sin. Because that was the only way for this indescribably beautiful planet where I live, am born, and die. Every ordinary day rising from the dead. Every time a single drop of water, which is the first of molecule of the earth. I am calm. I am not worried, even for him. He sees us happy. And maybe these tears are tears of joy and happiness for his children.
Thank you very much, děkujeme moc krát. Opravdu velmi působivá báseň. Jedna really a very strong poetry, very strong poem, not only from the point of view of the thematic, but also from stylistical point of view. So, as we decided that we will alternate, now I would like to ask Clara to read another poem according to what she has in English or in English and something, because in her case it's hard to say whether in Czech or German, I mean in English, and what you have at your disposition.
I now have only poems in English.
Okay, so
okay?
the rest of them in English, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's a lingua franca, an international language. Everybody understands. It's all right. Actually, Czech sounded here, German sounded here. So we are actually under the principles of the Pen Club. We are international. We are multilingual. We can continue with English. Ladies and gentlemen, Klara Hurkova with translations into English made by Natalia Nera.
No.
No, not by Natalia Nera, but
This is again something different. This is a collection of English poems which I wrote myself in English. So Natalia Nera wasn't born then. No, I'm not sure, but these poems are maybe 20 years old. I wrote them when I studied in England, because I studied English language and literature, and I was for half a year in Norwich at the University of East Anglia in Norfolk. And yeah, the atmosphere there inspired me to write some poems. And maybe I will read the one which I just read at the Congress.
it will be really great. And actually, we find out that you actually write in 3 languages: Czech, German, and English. Maybe in time some other languages will be added. Who knows?
Okay.
So, very curious about that. Very interesting, and I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, I heard this poem during today's reading, and I'm looking forward to Clara to reading it again so that you could also hear it, because it's a really fascinating poem written 20 years ago, or 25, or how long?
Yeah, 20, maybe 23 years ago, yeah.
Well, Natalia Nera was born. It's all right.
Okay, but she was very small then.
Yes, she was small, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is a poem inspired by a strange moment short before Christmas when I felt alone in a bar and drank some alcohol. Maybe I will drink some wine before I start reading.
Cheers.
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 Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes poetry really belongs to, sorry, by reverse, wine, good wine belongs to poetry.
Yeah.
And poetry belongs to, well, we will find out.
Okay, so it's called Sympathy from the Devil. It was a lonely evening hour, as lonely as one surely feels in crowded bars with Christmas trees, without a friend and without power. I looked through windows, couldn't see a single star behind the dark, and couldn't find a single spark in people's eyes to gladden me. So I gave up the need for talk and dived into my inner moans while listening to the Rolling Stones, which made my sorrow rise and walk. The jukebox watched with big red eyes, the smoky room, my glass of beer, while in my eyes I felt a tear. The doors let in some distant cries. And suddenly I saw him there. He stood beside the Christmas tree, and he looked tender, he looked free, with such attraction, hard to bear. Then he sat down and smiled at me and talked to me and held my hand. He bought me wine, and then we spent 2 hours full of sympathy there in the corner of the bar, before my head began to ache, and shapes of smoke looked like a snake which wound around an open jar. And I was sure I wanted now to be alone and to be me, shake off that devil's sympathy. But I was lost and wondered how. I couldn't find my normal self. It drowned in sorrow and in wine. The devil's world, which now was mine, imprisoned me in iron shelf. In awful fear, I took my glass and threw it out in nightly air, and I could breathe cold freshness there and lovely smell of needed grass. And I saw how my sorrow rose like purple cloud towards the sky. It melted soon, not very high. The night was cold, the morning close. I looked around and was alone. The music stopped, the bar was closed. He disappeared, a shady ghost, a ghost I did not want to own.
Thank you very much. Really, very impressive. A very impressive poem. Jakube, to je na vás. To je rada na vás. Jakub, it's your turn now.
So,
Also about the devil. Taky o ďáblovi.
taky mám někdy básně o ďáblovi. Ano.
Well, he does have some poems about the devil, but it's not the case tonight.
Ne, ještě bych chtěl přečíst jednu ukázku z té knížky Láska a jiná zvířata, kratší. The Kingfisher, ledňáček.
He would like to read some short fragment from the collection he's preparing, the love and other animals. Please, proceed.
In a unique moment of silence, interrupted only by my titicaca, when there is surely somebody born and somebody dying, somebody stepped, somebody getting AIDS or another kiss. The war is starting where another one has ended. The poet sees me flying across the river, already losing me from his sight. He will be looking for me for the rest of his life, no matter the cold, the rain, the sun, the snow, day and night. But I have no way to help him other than revealing myself again from time to time.
Děkujeme moc krát. Thank you very much. So we go back to Clara. This time only in English.
Yeah. Okay. Is it the last round or what?
I think yes.
Well,
Okay.
given the fact that Jakub has only one thing to present now, that means the translation, that Czech fragment, maybe this is the last round.
So I will read 2 short poems.
Are they also about the devil?
No,
Oh, what a disappointing.
it's disappointing, yeah, but it's about me, so maybe it's a compensation.
No comments, okay.
Okay, so the first one is again from the time I studied in Norwich, so it's my English original, and the second one is a translation by Natalia Nera from Czech.
Hi Natalia, I hope you are listening to us now. We talked a lot about you today. Really, Natalia, dnes jsme o tobě opravdu hodně mluvili. Doufáme, že tam seš.
So the first is called Unwritten Poems. In their unwritten poems, people talk about their lonely flights through the multicolored sky of secret loves, through the deceitful paradise of stolen smiles. In their unwritten poems, people say what makes them shiver at night, how they would die for a returned touch of the one who has no idea why.
Thank you very much.
And the second one is again in this anthology, and it's called Close Up, in Czech, Zblízka. Close up. Those who love us most watch us so much in close up, they don't see us anymore. They embrace us in their dreams like golden idols. Yet our dreams are only strange birds behind the window pane. Better not feed them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was Klára Hurková. Jakube, těšíme se na ten úryvek v češtině. We are looking forward to that fragment in Czech from your poetry.
Dobře, já bych teda chtěl na závěr přečíst krátkou ukázku ze jedné ze svých knížek Obžaloba lůzokracie.
Obžaloba
lůzokracie.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, actually it is a short fragment from another book, which is Accusation to the Autocracy.
Chleb a hry. Reformní platformy činí platformní reformy formami obstrukcí. S odkazem na normy připouštějí korupci pro vlastní blahobyt. Chléb a hry. A rozveselit to nic jímž zveselit. Nasadit zboží do marketu, zpytomnět seriálem, teď nasrat reportáží o manažerské gáži, uklidnit nad kanálem TV Newsport 24. Rozšířit paniku, chřipku, mnoho povyku. Vypusťte celebrity. Varovat před návratem totality. Očkování povinně zaplatit. Celebrity zapustit, konec hovadin. Zlevnit cirky, zdražit plyn. Bědovat za krize. Tahat z nich peníze přes SOS, SMS. Připomenout totalitu. Sebrat jim identitu. Nasadit zboží do marketů, nacpat jim břicha. Už jsou sticha.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try something I have never done until now. Please give me that poem. I will try to translate it directly, now, live. I don't know whether I will manage to, but I like it so much that I want to try.
Okay.
It may be possible, it may be not, but I will try.
Okay.
Yes, it's tough, ladies and gentlemen. Another great poet is now with us. You still can't see her. Erzsébet Csicseri-Rorai from Hungary and United States, and actually from the world, just come to our table, and she will be the next to participate to our program. But for now, she keeps claiming she's not a great poet. Please don't believe her. Okay, we will see about it. Now I will try to translate this directly in English. Oh my God. Chleb a hry. Bread and games. Reforming platforms make platforming reforms in the form of obstructions with indications to norms that allows corruption for their own good. Bread and games. And make happy that nothing which is called the people, the nation, just send goods to the market, just make people stupid with the help of cereals, and again make some television report about some managers' corruption. Finally, just getting close and getting silent on the channel TV Newsport 24, just spend the panic about this flu with with a lot of habits. Just three celebrities just warn them about the coming back of the totalitarian regime. Vaccination, it is it is mandatory to pay for it. Just free the stars. It is the end of stupid things. The matches are less expensive. The gas is more expensive. And put all this on the came of crisis. Just obtain, just have some money from them, help with the help of the SOS and the SMS, reminding the totalitarian regime, taking their identity, send goods to the market, just fill their belly with them. Are they already silent or not? Yes, they are already silent. They are already silent. They are already silent. Ladies and gentlemen, Jakub Fischer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Jakub.
Thank you, Dan.
I promise the last question. Are you going to come next year to Ecuador to the next edition of the International Congress of Poets? Yes or no?
Yes!
So, everybody will be there. Ladies and gentlemen, Clara Hurkova, Jakub Fischer, and even if you still can't see her, Erzsébet Csicseri-Rorai. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Are you going to see me? I don't want to be seen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the honor and the pleasure to have as our next guest of this special edition of the Familia Literary Salons, the organizer and coordinator of this year's edition of the International Congress of Poets in Budapest, the poet, the writer, and the cultural manager, Mr. István Turci, a very respected personality of the Hungarian, European, and world poetry. István, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Thank you for being here with us. And as we are actually somehow at the end, or almost at the end of the International Congress of Poets, please tell us, how do you feel at the end of this edition? Are you pleased? Are you happy with this? Did you like it? Because all the other people I have interviewed were very enthusiastic about the organization and about the way the things went here. So let's hear an opinion from the other side, from the side of the main organizer. How do you feel about it? Are you happy with this edition?
Absolutely. Just take a look at me. I feel happy and relieved a bit because, it's a great thing to have guests, but the best thing is the moment they go back to their countries and everybody is satisfied with us. When 2 years ago I applied for hosting the WCP in Bhubaneswar. This is the Bay of Bengals in India, and I won with it. I didn't know anything about pandemia. So, but despite the difficulties all around the world, I would say that I'm contented with the idea that we have international guests from 11 countries. And the live streaming we had for the opening ceremony, there were 32 countries watching and following us at the same moment. So I think this is more than enough. I'm really happy with it. I feel relieved a bit, and I hope that the last day and the closing event will be nice as it was before. So,
Thank you very much. Actually, I can confirm myself as one of your guests that The things were very well organized, and they also contained a high emotional. They also had a highly emotional content, especially yesterday's reading at the Petőfi Museum of Literature in Budapest. In that historical building, so filled with literature, actually with world literature, with universal literature, and in the company of distinguished poets from all over the world. Actually, I can see that your feeling for literature is not limited only to literature, because actually many of your guests are not only writers but also performers, composers, musicians. So actually, it was a melange. It was a connection of arts here. It was a congress of poets, but other arts were around poetry, and this made also a very good image of what it happened here. Was this in your intentions? Did you want from the beginning to make this connection, this combination of arts, or it just happened that some of them came also with music, even with dance? Some of them.
For me, it's quite natural that a literary program, event, or series of events is not only pure literature. First, because I think it's quite natural that the different branches of arts embrace together. We are together, the actors, the musicians, even the vision artists work together. I have the one and only Hungarian poetry quarterly entitled Parnassus. This is 25 years old, and each of our evenings are about this kind of being together of different arts, of different branches of arts. So it's quite natural, I think, and it is a bit more, let's see, entertaining for the audience. When you see that, okay, we have singers, we have writers, we have actors around, so I think this is the natural way to do it for me.
And as it was a combination of arts, it was also an impressive combination of languages. It was a little bit like a Babel tower of languages. Of course, everything translated into an international language so that everybody understands. But it was impressive. This combination you choose between English and Spanish as main languages of the festival, and as some of the artists, some of the literates, some of the poets actually used both of those languages in order to create games of words or very impressive metaphors.
If we see or trace back to the history of World Congress of Poets, you can see that in the last 20 years we had trilingual events, congresses, because we have lots of poets from Asia Pacific, lots from American continent, South Americans, Northern Americans, and the third one is the European. So each congress had three languages, trilingual: English, Spanish, and Chinese. But this year we should miss them because they couldn't travel to us, as all you know why. So it's again, I really hope that in Ecuador next year, if we can travel there, and I hope we will, there will be again a trilingual congress. So this is for us a kind of convention that, okay, we have different sections. The English sections with the Europeans, and from people from Australia we have poets from New Zealand from year to year, then from Canada, for instance, Great Britain and other countries. Then we have sometimes we have even French sessions, because there are some French-speaking people too there. So this year, okay, it was bilingual, or bilingual, as Americans say. But anyway, I'm really satisfied with it. So let's see what comes out in the future about it.
Yes, thank you very much. You are right, for sure. Actually, yes, French was also very present, even if not officially. It was a lot of French conversation here, and French as poetical language and as universal language was not absent from this Congress, for sure. Dear Istvan, you as a poet, as an author, in which language do you write? Only in Hungarian or Hungarian and English, or also as you are a multilingual person? Are you also a multilingual author, or you keep on Hungarian?
Telling you the truth, I write Hungarian, but I have few or a couple of poems written in English. The one I read yesterday, the Voice, it was written only in English. So, for instance, it has no and not any Hungarian translation so far. Because I'm a lazy guy, and I, if I think in English, I don't want to get it back to Hungarian. It's another thing. So actually, yes, in Hungarian, but I'm quite lucky to have poems or poem volumes in about 12 languages. It's only books. I have 25 or 30 languages translated my poems to different journals, magazines, but it's another fish to fry. So, it's a kind of international trafficking, spiritual trafficking, not trafficking with young people, and trafficking with children, babies, but trafficking of the spirit, of the intellectuals.
A very courageous and a very original metaphor used for this. Yes, you mentioned that The Voice, it was a poem written directly in English. Tell me, do you translate yourself?
Never.
I completely agree.
Absolutely, never. It's so far from me that first, I don't have any time for that. Second, that I don't need it. And just one example that last month I was called from Serbia, from a publishing house I don't know, I don't know the name, I don't know them personally, that they found one of my earlier books. It's called Emptiness. It is one book and it's one poem. It's almost 100 pages, one poem from the. It is about 25 hours, spiritual, and they translated it into Serbian, and they want to publish it this year in Serbia. So it's not kind of a collected poems, but only one book focused on it. So it's very nice of them, but let's see. So I will travel to Belgrade to the book fair in October, and I will have the chance to see the audience and the chance to experience how the readers feel about this book.
Yes, I think it's a very peculiar experience, maybe a singular one. Here, your 100-page long poem translated into another language and performed in another language. I am looking forward to when it happens to tell us the experience you had with hearing this, with listening to this. Dear Istvan, please, would you like to read us something from your creation in original Hungarian and in English translation?
Let me see. Yes, I have some samples.
Thank you
from
very much.
Hungarian, and let me see. I try to pick out those particular ones who have here in English. So, okay, let's see. I try to pick out poems or one poem which is kind of a prose poem. So no need to taking care of the rhymes, for instance, because the rhyme is another fish to fry.
Yes, it's quite difficult to translate rhymes.
Yes, sure. Let me see it if I have it in English. Let me check it out.
Yes, of course. Actually, this is that you have it.
Yes, I
This
have
is
it.
great.
So first in my native language and then in English.
Please.
The poem is Nem lesz több vers. In English, there won't be any more poem. Again, a bit ironic gesture, but a bit self-ironic attitude. But this is what I am.
I hope there will be a lot of poems after this.
Nem lesz több vers, több nem lesz. Nem megy, minek, nincs kedvem is egyáltalán. Az üres papír előtt egy nap annyi, mint 1000 esztendő. Várni, ahogy felmagasodnak a szavak, mint a levegő, hiába valóság. Nincs napkelte, amit meg ne énekeltek volna már. A nyár beüvölt a házba. Elhasznált rímekkel sötétítenek, szerelmes lélegzetek ritmusára hullanak, mióta már a csillagok. A nevek rég elvesztették szőrzetük, és töredéknek lenni sem megkapaszkodás. Minden puszta szó, aztán puszta szó megint. Mégsem tudom abba hagyni. Abba hagyom, ahányszor elkezdem, újra kezdem, ahányszor abba hagyom. Olyan ez, mint a szomjúság. Nem lesz több vers, ha csak itt ez nem. És ez sem az enyém, hanem azé, aki olvassa.
Thank you. And now the English translation.
There won't be any more poems. There won't be any more poems. No more. I cannot do it. Why bother? I do not feel like it. A day in front of a blank page is as much as 1,000 years, waiting for the words to rise up, like air futility itself. There is no sunrise someone hasn't glorified already. Summer shouts into the house, used rhymes act as the blinds. How long the stars have been falling in the rhythm of romantic brief. Names have long lost their body. Names have long lost their body hair, and it's not no reassurance to be a fragment. Everything is merely a word, then merely another word. Yet, still, I'm unable to stop. I stop as many times I begin, and I begin again as many times I stop. It's just like thirst. There won't be any more poems, but this one only here. And this poem isn't mine, but that of the person who reads it.
Thank you very much. It's almost believing declaration, a believing claiming. Looking forward to other poems of yours.
Yeah, yesterday I read this short story of short history of philosophy, because it is about my dog. I'm a big dog lover, so people love it very much. And last month I was in the countryside, somebody from the audience shouted, please read the poem with the dog. So here we go.
In this case, we will offer also this poem to our viewers, and I'm sure next time you will appear at Familia, everybody will say, please read again the poem about the dog.
So it was quite nice. Sometimes they ask me to read erotic poems because I have a whole book on erotica, but anyway, this doggy is all right. Let me try to find first. Let me see, because it's a whole book in English and I don't remember the pages. Actually, I have a poem on Jaroslav Seifert too.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, but I'm not so sure I have it here in Hungary.
I understand. Actually, yes, as your colleague Erkki Roy wrote about a cat, you wrote about a dog.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Hungarian.
Please.
A filozófia rövid történet. Kutyám, Metafi, a szokásos időben mosszon reggeli sétál. Az ébredő lények gyermeki kíváncsiságával bámuljuk, ahogy a nap ma is újra teremti az eget. Telítődnék ragyogással, de feszül a kórház, már is tovább. Nem itt akar, nem is a sarkon túl, az újságos mögötti lámpaoszlop cserékkel körülvett puha fénykoszorúja alatt. Nem. A megszokás hatalmas mágás. Metafi egy hónapja minden reggel egy ficus religiosa tövénél végzi a dolgát. Ami még legalább 100 méter, és az utolsó métereket rendre futva tesz. Szabad kezemben fehér zászlóként leng a papírkendő, zizeg a nylon zacskó. Metafi nem aprózza. Bízik képességeiben. Csak az állapotára koncentrál, soha nem látom védtelennek. Felhúzott lábbal áll a teremtett természet közepén, és szarik. Teste börtönéből egyetlen szakszerű nyomással távozik a savat. A tiszta tevékenység pillanata ez. Lehajolok, ő mintha engedélyt adna, úgy lép el onnan. Hazafelé bölcs dolgokról hallgatunk. And let me see the Hungarian one. Just a moment. Peti, odaadnád a táskámat egy pillanatra? Köszönöm szépen. Nagyon vacak ez a szemüvegem. If you don't mind, I will change my spectacles to a better one. The older one is better.
Very well. It actually gives a feeling of authenticity.
Yeah. It's called Short Story on Philosophy. You cannot find any story and any philosophy. Only the dog. Metaphys, my dog, drags me to a morning walk at the usual time. With the childish curiosity of being still awakening, we stare at the sun as today it recreates the sky again. I would fill up with the globes, but the lead tightens, we press on. Here isn't good for him. Neither around the corner, neither the soft circle of light. Under the streetlight, by the newspaper, still surrounded by shrubs. Oh no, habit is a large magnet. For a month now, Metaphys has done his business at the base of Ficus religiosa, which is at least 100 paces further. We always manage the last yards at a run. In my free hand, the tissue flaps like a white flag. The plastic bag rustles. Metaphys doesn't do things by halves. He trusts his talents. He concentrates solely on the job in hand. I've never seen him more vulnerable. With lifted leg, he stands in the middle of man-made nature and shits. With a single respect push, the dirt escapes the prison of his body. A moment of pure activity. I bend down, as if giving his assent. He steps away. On the way home, we stay silent about wise things.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And believe me, it is about philosophy. And it is actually a treaty, even if exemplified through this very special relationship connection between a person and its favorite pet. Dear Istvan, I think we still have time for another poem. Yes, if you
I can read the one which was written in English originally. If you
maybe that voice it was very successful.
let me see.
Thank you very much.
Let me see. Where is it? I cannot find the book. Peter, másik táskámat is kérem szépen. Mindent adj ide, ami ott van. Táskám, nem a kabátomat kértem, a táskámat kértem. Hát de kell, hogy legyen. Ja, itt van, megvan, köszönöm. Jó van. Okay.
It was here. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was this one.
Yes. Here we go. Köszi, Peter.
Oh, it is in the anthology. Yes.
Yes, it's in there. And it's a short one, quite short one. Here we go.
Looking forward to it.
The voice. Through the starry night's sharpest spectres trace a voice over the stagnant gold of whisperings. Show me the poets you read, and I tell you who you are. Show me the poets you respect, and I tell you who you were. I see our grandfathers' gaunt figures during times that seemed unbearable, when parks withered and we only had our books to tide us over the winter. Show me the poets you rally around, and I tell you what you will become.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, István Turci, coordinator and organizer of the Congress of International Poets in 2021 in Budapest. You had here a lot of poet guests, and according to the poets they rallied around themselves, you can tell them what is going to happen with them in the future as poets and as people. We are looking forward to it. We are looking forward to the next editions of the Congress. We are looking forward for your next volumes, your next collections of poetry. And thank you very much for being here with us, for organizing the Congress, and for accepting our invitation to the Familia literary salons.
Been my pleasure to be invited here to talk to you and to the audience. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was István Turci. All the best. See you next time.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest, a very special one, and which I intend to invite since a lot of time to the literary salons of the Familia magazine, is Erzsébet Csicseri-Ronay, a great Hungarian, American, Canadian, French, and I still don't know which poetess, which writes in a lot of languages. She's also a musician and a musicologist, actually a real intellectual, and in the same time belongs to a very special sign for the Hungarian nation. She will explain us by herself, because the name Csicseri-Ronay is very important in the modern and contemporary history of Hungary. Dear Erzsébet, welcome here. Thank you very much for accepting being our guest at the literary saloons of the Familia magazine in Oradea, Romania. First of all, I would like to kindly ask you whether you are for the first time at this Congress of the International Congress of Poets. This year's edition takes place in Budapest.
Yes, this is my first time. Normally I go to PEN. I'm a member of Hungarian PEN and International PEN, and I go to PEN meetings, and I didn't really know this, but I was invited to invite some poets, and I was invited, and I had a lovely time. I think it was really nice people and very harmonious. I liked it a lot.
Well, because you mentioned, actually it was a thing I wanted to mention myself, but thank you very much for easing my job and telling this by yourself. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Erzsi is a member, and I have to say, a very active member of the Hungarian and International PEN. Tell me please, did you feel some PEN principles being applied or working here at this International Poets Congress?
Well, yes, I mean, it was more of a poets' congress. It was very friendly, very harmonious. In Penn, there's a lot more politics. I mean, people try to write resolutions on problems in the world, like the Israeli-Palestine, or the Kurdish and the Turkish, or the Hungarians and the Hungarian minority, or the Tibetans and the I can go on and on. There's so many. Myanmar is a terrible problem, and China, the Uyghurs. So actually, there's a lot more fights. There's a lot of fights. So we didn't get into politics this time, and we weren't trying to save the world. It was just poetry, and it was lovely. It was just such a relief because I have to fight sometimes in pen, and it's tiring.
Do you feel that here at this Congress, someone fought for something?
No, it was not. There was no fighting at all. It was really nice. It was. I mean, I'm known as a fighter, but I'm actually a very peaceful person, and I'm a big follower of Gandhi. Nonviolence, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and which doesn't mean not fighting, and it certainly doesn't mean passivity. It's resistance, but it's nonviolent. Of course, it isn't entirely nonviolent because in nonviolence you have to put yourself out there and expose yourself to violence, but you will not commit violence on somebody else. And that's the essence of it, and I think it's terribly effective and terribly important. But in pen, although there are big fights and sometimes we feel like punching each other, we don't. and it is nonviolent, and I mean, one of the big pen committees is the writers in prison. But PEN is really very good at springing writers who are in prison or persecuted. But they research it, and if the person is nonviolent, then they will help. But if they're violent, they won't. So it's very strict. But it's effective, and they often get people out. I'm in the Writers for Peace Committee. I'm the secretary of the Writers for Peace Committee, but that's more vague because we fight for, the Palestinians and the Israelis, the Kurds and the Turks and the Tibetans and the Uyghurs, but that's so vague and you can't quantify it. And we don't. The Writers for Peace brings people so that you can measure it. What we do, you can't measure. So. But of course, it's also literature. I mean, we do have poetry readings. We invite, Nobel Prize winners and great writers and also PEN. I know more about PEN because this is my first meeting, but it also the congresses take place in different places. I mean, we've been to India. We were in Manila last year. We've been to Iceland. We've been to Kyrgyzstan. We've been, various countries in Europe. So it's a moving. It's very, very, very interesting. You travel, you meet people. It's a little bit like the UN, when these have these discussions. You have the assembly, and then you write resolutions about things, and they vote on the assembly. I write resolutions about the Hungarian minority, and they generally vote for it. So.
Well, starting from what you mentioned here, when I first let people know in Romania that I'm going to invite you to read and to have a small conversation within the literary salons of the Familia magazine, one of the most beautiful reactions from the part of one of our members of PEN Romania, your colleague and good friend Mariana Gorcica,
Yeah, she's nice.
was the publishing a picture with you, with her, and with Magda Kernec, and writing down there a generation with principles.
Yes.
Ergi Ciceri Ronai, you really belong to a generation with principles. And in the same time, I think you are continuing a kind of family tradition. I'm not going to say more. Please, would you like to say more about it?
Well, I mean, we've had some really stormy times in Hungary, and in my parents' generation, you had the Second World War, and then you had the German occupation of Hungary, in during which time the Jews and other people were persecuted, and my parents, both of them, got connected with the underground resistance. So they forged papers, documents for Jews and communists who were much better in resistance than they were in power, and then other people who were resistors. And they forged documents and they hid people. And my father had a underground paper. All this was very dangerous because if you were caught, you were shot. So they were really very brave. And then when the Russians came in, of course, at first people welcomed them, and you had a short period of you had elections in which, in 45, in which there were many parties, and my father's party, the smallholders party, which wanted to break up the large landholdings among peasants, they won 57%, which is unheard of. I mean, even when you have two parties, you don't. When you have many parties, but the communists were terribly upset about this, and the Russian troops were there. So they started these conspiracy theories against the smallholders party, and my father was well, he was very brave. I mean, he was arrested by the AVO, which was the horrible KGB Stasi. He didn't try to escape. He said that this is his fate. And what? Sorry. And anyway, he was taken to the Andrashi Ut 60, which is today the House of Terror. It was the house of horrible Hungarian KGB, AVO, both fascist and communist, and he was tortured, but he never squealed on anybody, but my mother, who was very inventive, she went to the what do you call it, the court cases. So she knew what was happening to his colleagues and friends, and so she took notes. But how to get this information to my father, which was very important, well, she had this idea of inscribing in wax paper with a knife the information and rolling it up and putting it into macaroni. And she got it to my father in prison, and so he knew what they already knew. So he would tell them what they already knew, but he didn't what do you call it? He didn't denounce anybody. You know, it was very dangerous because it was there for months. People died, you know. But my father was really tough. And anyway, he got out, and then they escaped, and eventually ended up in the U.S. Where I grew up, and he continued his work for Hungary, and he had a we call it a publishing company, a small private publishing company where he published people like Sándor Márai. He's very big now, big bestseller, universal bestseller. And then people that couldn't be published in communist Hungary, people like Ilyich, who's a very great poet, who wrote this incredible poem, long poem, a denunciation of tyranny. And he published, of course, that could not be published in Hungary, but he published it. So he continued this work, and then when the Russians left in 90, he came back right away. My mother came back, and he continued this work, publishing and fighting for democracy and freedom and Hungarian, not nationalism, but Hungarian patriotism is a big difference, you know. I think some people do not understand that so many liberals don't understand that love of country is a natural thing, and nationalism, of course, is bad, but patriotism is a good thing. And well, in the end, he's considered a national hero, and I guess I inherited this, you know, fighting for the Hungarian minority and for minorities who are in trouble, like the Tibetans and the Uyghurs and the Kurds and the Chinese, you know. So I inherited this from my dad, and I work in pen, and also I write, you know, I write petitions and things, and then also I because my father, publisher, and also the interest in politics is the same for me, and so I do a lot of translation and writing. But, yeah.
Thank you very much. Really a very exhaustive, actually it's hard to say very exhaustive, it's a pleonasm, but an exhaustive description of the situation of your family, which actually explains a lot. On one hand, the status of your father as a national hero, and maybe it's worth mentioning that he was also the heroes of the anti-communist revolution in 1956.
No, he was outside in America by then.
Oh, at that time he was already immigrated in America.
That's
sorry.
Right. Yeah, that's okay.
Also, which actually explains also, and in the same time argues what Mariana Gorčica wrote on Facebook, that yes, you, together with the two ladies mentioned there, really belong to what is called a generation with principles. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so happy that we managed to make the acquaintance of Erzsi Kicseri Rónai as a militant, as a fighter for human rights and for rights of writers, and all in all for good, positive causes. But Erzsi Kicseri Rónai is also a great artist, an excellent poet, where unfortunately we can't ask her to play some cello for us here, because cello for us here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Erzsi is also an excellent English speaker and English teacher, and I like very much when she corrects me, because this helps me improve my English. Thank you, Erzsi, for correcting me each time when you are doing this. So we can't play cello here, but we can hear some of your wonderful poems. Please read us something from what you wrote. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you that if Klára Hurková, which was here maybe 30 minutes ago, writes in Czech English, and German. Ergi teacher Ronai writes at least, Ergi, please correct me if I'm wrong, in 5 languages?
No, 3.
3 languages, just like Clara. That means Hungarian, English, and French. But once you told me that you wanted to write in Spanish too, didn't you?
Yeah, but I'm not really. I translated from Spanish, but no. But poems come to me in 3 languages, but not Spanish. My Spanish isn't good enough.
Okay, then please read us something you write and just tell us in which language were those poems written in originally.
Well, okay, I'll read. I'm a horse lover. Anybody knows me knows that I'm a horse lover. So I'll read this poem about a horse, and it came originally from in English. I have other poems that came in Hungarian or French, but these, yeah. So horse. Okay. I am horse. I am noble of horse. I am fleet of foot. Catch me if you can. I race the wind, proud I am. When I run a race, most often I win. I fly like an eagle when I go into battle. I pound the earth, I am of royal birth. When I run, I am king. When I prance and dance, I make the ground sing. I glory in my strength, I can race any length. When I race, the crowd cheers and they shout. When a man rides me, he rides the sky.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
Okay, so the second one is about an animal. I love animals, so...
Ladies and gentlemen, just be prepared. Something really special is waiting for you. Ergi teacher Ironai and an animal she loves very much.
Okay, cat. I am cat, and you can't beat that. I am free, you cannot order me. I am what I am, and my life is mine. If you take me as I am, life will be kind. If you're nice to me, I will purr and caress, and you I will bless. But if you're not, watch out, beware. I will scratch, I will bite, and if you're not careful, you'll be out of my sight. If you can hear me, you too will be heard. In daytime I sleep, I'm a pussycat, sweet, but I'm a creature of the night. If you don't treat me right, I will scratch, I will bite, and if you're not careful, you'll be out of my sight. There'll be no one to blame, for you've blown the game. But if you're nice to me, you'll have my soft paws. But if you're not, I'll show you my claws. So be careful, beware. I'm cat, and you can't beat that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ergi teacher Ironai is a cat. And we can't be that. Ergi, tell us please, is there a different language variant of this poem?
Yeah, I have it in Hungarian, but it doesn't work as well as in English. English is very tum tum tum. I'm cat. Hungarian is so longer words.
Wouldn't you like to read it also in Hungarian? If you want, of course. If you feel you don't like it, okay.
If I can find it, just a minute. Yeah, here it is.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So we will understand that the original was in English and that it had a certain rhythm, and that you are not so impressed, you are not so happy with the Hungarian translation. But we would like very much Hungarian language to sound also during this transmission.
Okay, but it's really different. I would rather have the Hungarian in another poem, which works better.
Okay, very well.
Okay,
very
because
well.
this doesn't work as well, honestly. I have another poem, which, in fact, I will start with the Hungarian.
Great.
Because that came to me originally in Hungarian, and then I translated it into English.
Just tell us the title in English so that we know about it, and then please read the Hungarian original and then the English translation.
There's no real title, I'll just say the first line. If I were a tree, a fallen. Okay? So I'll read this because it's better than cat in Hungarian.
Please.
Okay. Ha fa lennék, árnyékot adnék néked, ha víz lennék, hűsíteném tested, ha tűz lennék, felmelegítenélek, ha nap lennék, beragyoggnám lelked, ha szél lennék, felvinnélek az égbe, ha madár lennék, énekelnék néked. Ha hó lennék, betakarnálak téged. Ha kutya lennék, megvédenélek. Ha ló lennék, hazavinnélek. Ezekből egyik sem vagyok, mégis rám találtál, mert én te vagyok. So this is the English. If I were a tree, I would give you shade. If I were the wind, I would carry you away. If I were fire, I would warm you up. If I were water, I would cool you down. If I were the sun, I would shine on you. If I were snow, I would blanket you in white. If I were a bird, I would sing you a song. If I were a dog, I would defend you to the death. If I were a horse, I would carry you home. But I am none of these things. Still, you found me, for I am you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Erzsi Ciceri Ronai. And before saying goodbye, a short question, just like in the case of the ones which were here before you, Klára Hurková and Jakub Fischer. Next year, the International Congress of Poets is going to take place in Ecuador. Are you going to go? Yes or no?
Yes, if I can, if there's no clash with pen. But I want to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Erzsi Ciceri Ronai is going to be next year in Ecuador if no clash it happens with the pen club, and let's hope nothing will happen. Thank you very much for being with us today, Erzsi Ciceri Ronai. It was really a pleasure and an honor having you here within this program for the Familia literary salons. All the best. Goodbye.
Thank you. Okay, that wasn't so bad. I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Ciceri Ronai put it, it wasn't so bad. We hope you will agree. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest of this special edition of the literary salons of the Familia literary magazine is Damia Mendoza, the Ecuador, a very respected poetess, performer, and musician. Actually, we have here her biography. She is a senior lecturer, educational communication module at the University of Otavalo, poet and doctor of communication in education communication lines. As a university professor and researcher of LM Scientific Network, she organized also courses for the University of Santiago de Cali, Central University of Ecuador. She is also a composer, performer, member of the House of Ecuadorian Culture. She wrote lyrics, songs, and poetry. Recorded are her albums, which are at least 5 of them, as far as I can see here. There are Miss Maclay, Damia to Fall in Love, Damia's Poets Feel Like, Behind the Windows of My Sea, and Leaves of My Long Night. So, a very prodigious activity, a very complex artist. She also participated to a lot of congresses, including the Congress of Poets in Budapest, 2021, Marrakesh International Poetry Festival, 2017, the festival La Palabrava in Montreal, 2016, and a lot of other festivals in Taiwan, in Villa Dolores, Argentina, in Havana, in Mexico, in Peru, and many, many other places. So I repeat, a very important artist, a complex artist. We are honored to have her as our guest. Dear Damia, welcome and thank you very much for being here with us. Please tell us, how do you feel at this International Congress of Poets in Budapest?
Oh, the first land for me is really a pleasure to meet you with this interview. I like to send the family Romania, that is you, and really from South America. It's nice to be in this congress, the 40 World about the poet in Budapest. I am very happy to do able to be with a majority of poets on the world.
You know that the next Congress in 2022 will take place in your country, in Ecuador. Are you among the organizers?
No. I am not command the organizer because the president is the ex-president of my country. She is Rosalia Arteaga, and this moment is impossible to come for her, but he is in other role, the important, the Ibero-American Secretary of UNESCO, but she invite everybody at Ecuador, and we are really happy to invite you, and the next Congress in Ecuador, you are welcome all.
Oh, thank you very much. It is really impressive. Actually, Ecuador is a wonderful country, a little bit far away, but maybe we will manage. Now, please, would you like to present us something from your? I was about to say literature, but actually, your art is much more complex than literature. Your art is literature, and within literature, poetry and verses. It's music, it's composing, it's performing. So it is a lot. Please, there are a lot of things within your art. Please present us something from your art. Some poems in your original Spanish and in the English translation.
It's too much all land. But if you like to listen a little phrase in native language of my country, it's like this.
Please.
Okay, it's Nyuka Yaktamanta Mikani, Nishpasumata Kusijarini, Uarmilla Mikani, Ecuador, Mama Yaktapat Suyuan, Sinchi, Latinoamérica, Manta. Is a little phrase that it say that I am South American woman, brunette, mixed race, burned by the sun of my ancestors. I am peasant as you imagine, or clay, or sand from the plain of the coast and the Andes. I love with my soul, with my hands, with my eyes, with tenderness. I love with my veins. And all my essence, proud of my land. I am simple woman with Ecuadorian geography and Latino America strength. I am a woman of this soul with great ideals, singing to my people who like family, looking daily the mirror of my brothers, young people it protest, still dying in the mood. I want together with you survive the system. Since I'm not shook up, I am Latino American. I want together with you to survive the system. Saying I'm not shook up, I am.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I want to ask, the original language is a local dialect of Spanish or a local language in Ecuador?
No, my original language is like melange between Spain and Ecuador, for the conquer, the stuart, and the native language in my country just speak 1.5 million, and other people like me speaks Spanish.
And speak this melange, this combination between the local Spanish and the local languages, original languages, because it sounded really very interesting and very original.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
It's a really very interesting language.
oh, I like that you came to Ecuador in order to learn the little Quechua. It's really, really fantastic, the accent.
Well, I think it's a little bit too late for me. I'm too old to learn such a wonderful and this special language. So let's listen to other poems of you in maybe in English translation.
In English translation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. This is a poem that speaks about my land. I return to the source. It says, where the tears were registered my parents. Cool mountain, still, the joy with which they love each other. I go back to the road where I play with my brothers, to the taste of the firewood on the afternoon. I miss that the tenderness time that carried the slower of winter to the silence of the earth, waiting for the long awaiting summer, and of the fruit transformed into harvest on of melody from the farm and from the spy. The sap is immortal and beautiful poetry. I always return at dawn that cuts me to the return of my this existence. Before I die, feel I would like madrigal expression and tears still fill me with landscape. That is why I return to the soul of my field.
Thank you very much. Actually, besides the beauty of those poems, it is also the beauty of your recitation, of your performance. As I was saying before, you are a very complex artist. I think we still have time for one last poem. Please, if you would like to read us one third last poem in order to before saying goodbye for today. Please.
Oh, okay. I appreciate too much that all this time for the family Romania, but I like to hear just about you from you a little poem in Romania. Just a little, please.
I I I promise I will do this, but this session is dedicated to you. So I will recite something after we finish this. I promise.
Okay, you promised for another interview. It's possible that I do that for you and in Ecuador.
Okay, thank you. I will be honored. Now let's finish this. Please read another poem
Okay.
in English.
Man, you.
No,
No, you degenerate.
I don't recognize. No, not my case.
It's difficult for you to listen to me. Other song aside you. I don't need that statue. I am strength and balance. I am strength. I give you crystalline oxygen of different rivers, like Danubio rivers, welcome all the bears. Come out your shadow, take off the cloak on the rulers, turn your passion toward balance, freedom, to sing and to observe. The heart of the world is natural, the language of the creation. It's confused. This is the plan. And the humanity. So
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Really an impressive art an impressive performance, an impressive artist. Hope to meet her again next year in Ecuador. It was Damia Mendoza from Ecuador. Thank you very much, Damia, for being today with us.
Thank you, my friend poet Land. Nice to see you in other moments.
Thank you very much. Good luck in everything you are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, we broadcast from Budapest, from the International Congress of Poets. It was Damia Mendoza from Ecuador. All the best. See you.
Thank you. Okay, amigos. Un poco.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest is Hava Pinhascowen from Israel. She is a very well known and a very respected author. She wrote a couple of poetry collections, and she is also one of the participants in the Congress of International Congress of Writers, this year's edition that takes place in Budapest. Dear Hava, are you for the first time at the Congress of International Writers?
Yes, this is my first time. Israel is not part of PEN. I don't know why, it's something very bureaucratical, so I didn't have really a chance. And I got an invitation. It was on the right time. I was missing meeting my fellow poets for a long time. So here I am, and I'm happy.
How did you like the atmosphere of this year's edition?
I like it because we are not so many, as I was told. So there is a chance to meet each other, to discuss, to read, to know each other better. It's something that for me is very important, to develop a kind of possibility to talk, to hear, to listen to the voices, to read more, to exchange books. Last night I even almost finished a book of a friend of mine, so it's good.
It is true, and also meeting new people, knowing new voices of international poetry. This is also a very important aspect. Well, having in mind that your country is not a member of the International PEN, what about the principles of the PEN clubs, of the International PEN Club? Do you think they were applied here? Do you think that the atmosphere of this meeting, of this reunion, reflects the principles of the International PEN?
I don't know. I mean, I read and I know, and now I'm going to be more active in connecting Israel and the writers in Israel to PEN. We will do this effort. It's about time. And what's important for me is to be part of a big community of writers and poets, and to exchange and to know better, to take care of more translations if it's possible. Because when you know people and you know what they are writing about, sometimes you are eager to translate and to bring them home to your own language. And that's all about meeting of writers and festivals, poetry festivals, and all kind of festivals. And in my country, I'm myself the artistic director of a festival. Its name is Kisufim, and it's about Jewish writers all over the world in different languages. And we are trying to reach out, to find each other.
This is a very good point, really. That's what poets are on the world. That's what white poets are on the world. And just like this beautiful anthology, edited and published here with us, with the guests of the this year's edition of the Congress, the poems actually are bridges between nations. Dear Hava, if you feel you would like to say something about yourself to the Romanian viewers, we know that you have a book that has been translated into Romanian. Maybe you would like to
Just
say.
recently, and it was translated by Menachem Falek. He did a wonderful job, from my opinion. We selected
I
the
can
poems
confirm,
together,
yes.
and I was astonished by his dedication to the translations and to the Romanian language and the love that he has to this language. And by the way, the Romanian Institute for Culture is very active in Israel, and we are working together in different subjects and events. And I hope it will continue, that we will have chance. So I feel like this is part of all this connection with Romanian people. I met some friends, poets from Romania, and maybe that's a continuation.
Let's hope it is really important. And you are right, Menachem Falek is one of the most active poets in this activity of translating between Hebrew and Romanian. He actually translated a lot of Jewish poets into Romanian. It's thanks to him that we have more or less a panorama on the Jewish literature in Romanian.
Hebrew literature.
Really, yes, Hebrew literature in Romanian. And myself, I had the privilege of being published by him in Israel.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes,
I look for it.
I mean it in a magazine, not
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
book.
I know exactly where he's publishing.
So it's really it was a privilege. Dear Hava, please, would you like to read us some of your beautiful poems so that the Romanian viewers of the Familia magazine and of this program of the literary saloons could know directly from the author something from her creation?
I will read in Hebrew,
It would be
and
great.
you will read in Romanian, or I will read in...
Maybe it would be better in English
I'll
because
do that.
it is more international. If we had more time, I would like very much to be in all three languages. But as we have only a couple of minutes, it's
Okay,
better
I'll
to.
do that.
Thank you.
וישכם אברהם. וישכם אברהם, הוא לא ידע שהלך בהרי ירושלים. השמש קרובה עדיין להרי מואב, והטרשים צבועים אדום זהב, ורוח קרה נחשון בין רוחות הסתיו. נוגעת בעצמותיי ומחבצת אורי. טמנתי באדמה שהשאירו הסלעים ביניהם, פקעות נרקיס וחלנית, זרעתי ירקות חורף ועלים למרק, שלא כאבי, לא שתלתי עצי פרי ואורנים, לא רימון, לא תפוז ואף לא זית. בזהירות בזהירות זרעתי רק את אלה אשר ימהרו להשיב לי את אהבתי. And Abraham walked early. Just a moment, I feel like I don't see.
It sounds wonderful. This in original.
Oh, now I'm better. And Abraham walked early. And Abraham walked early. Unaware that he was walking in the hills of Jerusalem, the sun still close to the hills of Moab. The rocky ground was painted red and gold, and her first cold wind of autumn seeped into my bones and caused my skin to shrivel. In the soil that was left between the rocks, I buried daffodil and anemone bulbs. I sowed winter vegetables and soup greens. Unlike my father, I did not plant fruit trees or pines, or pomegranates, or oranges, or even olives. Carefully,
I sowed only those that will quickly return my love.
Very beautiful. Thank you very much. I think we still have time for at least one or two poems. If you would like to read us more.
Okay, I'll do.
Thank you.
And forgive me that English is not my language, so I feel like
No problem. Important is that everybody understands.
בלילה באו הצבעים. בלילה הלבן באו הצבעים עד החלון. עמדו בחשיכה המלבינה ועצרו את התנועה בשרירים. מבט חתך כברק את הלילה, ולרגע נרגע הפחד. עלה האור, מהמקום בו עלה, בוורוד המוזהב, כל פרסותיהם היכה באדמה הקשויה ונעצר בתבליט לבן. נסו הצבעים לאן שנסו. יצאתי לראות איך קפאה האדמה מתחת למים, איך קפאו המים מתחת לשמיים, ותמונת עליונים בברידי הבוקר. גם צלליתם של הצבעים הבורחים אל היער הריק נרשמה בבריכות הקרח בשדות. The deer come at night. On the white night, the deer came on the window. They stood in the whitening darkness, not moving a muscle. A glance cut the night like lightning, and for a moment calmed the fear. Light rose from the place where the golden pink ascended, while the sound of their hooves struck the hardened earth and came to a halt on the white sculptured surface. The deer fled to where they flee. I went outside to see how the ground froze beneath the water, how the water froze beneath the sky, forming a picture of heavens in veins of cold. How silhouettes of deer fleeing on the empty forest are inscribed on the ice ponds of frozen fields.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really wonderful, wonderful poems. And maybe we still have time for at least one of them.
Okay.
We have to tell our viewers that actually we are doing this interview just before leaving into a trip on the city, and therefore we only have really very little time.
Okay. So it's like an experiment.
Almost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ga'aguim. This poem is really connected with its time of the year. This is the high holidays in Israel, and people are going early in the morning to synagogues, and there is a special atmosphere, so I read it for, it's a kind of homage.
Wow.
געגועים, longings. לבית הכנסת המרוקאי שברחוב רש"י יקומו עוד מעט לסליחות. שם החלונות בגובה העיניים. החושך לא מפחיד אותם, כי בסוף הדרך מחכה להם כוס תה עם ננה שהכין השמש הזקן. הלילה הפסדתי קונצרט בצוותא. הרבה קונצרטים הפסדתי בשביל משהו אחר. ואותם ימי אלול המתרחשים במקור אחר נספרים בדמי. שום התכחשות לא תעזור לעקור געגועים. הרי כל חלקי בין יושבי קרנות, בכוס תה שהשארתי על שולחן ירוק בבית קפה הפוך, שימשה עילה לבריחה אל האיש השלישי. We have a noise, a music around us.
Well. So let's try the English variant, please.
Longing. Soon they'll get up for selichot prayers and go to the Moroccan synagogue on Rashi Street. with windows at eye level. The darkness does not frighten them, for at the end of their journey there waits a cup of tea with mint prepared by the old man of the synagogue. Tonight, I missed a concert at Tzavta Hall. Many concerts I missed for something else. These are the days of Elul. They take place somewhere else but are counted in my blood. Denial will not help. Uproot this longing. Though I dwell among the idols, I left my cup of tea on the green table, a cafe which serves at an escape to another man. I feel like strange in my English.
Thank you very much. It was really very beautiful. On one hand, yes, no problem. Your English is excellent and everybody understood. I can guarantee you that. And on the other hand, that beautiful sound of the Hebrew language is really charming. And we want during our literary saloons at Familia to have as many languages as possible sounding in original from the mouth of their authors. Hava, thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you for your time, especially as it was so sharply before continuing today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Hava Pinhascowen, a very respected author from Israel, which has always been already been translated also into Romanian. Let's hope that the cooperation will continue. Hava, all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vă mulțumim pentru atenție. Am transmis direct de la Budapesta a 13-a ediție a Saloanelor literare Familia, dedicată Congresului Internațional al Poeților. Thank you for your attention. It was a live broadcast from Budapest of the 13th edition of the Familia Literary Saloons, dedicated to the International Congress of Poets that took place in Budapest between September 21st and 25th. Have a nice day. See you next week. All the best.